Hello and welcome to this latest HFS OneOffice Hot Vendor Fireside videocast. I'm David Cushman and I'm joined today by two of the stars of Viamedici. First, let me explain why HFS has designated Viamedici as a hot vendor. It's because of its ability to provide high scalability and flexible solutions in master data management and product configuration. Its innovative product configurator solution enables easy integration across different interfaces. In addition, its EPIM platform acts as a reliable repository of product data, marketing information, and media assets. Combining emerging technology expertise and industry knowledge, Viamedici has become a trusted partner of diverse industry players such as Wagner and Yokohama. With strong capabilities in master data management and product information management across industries, Viamedici is well positioned to bring significant value to clients across industries. The combination of PIM, dynamic product configuration, powerful multi-language and real-time data is exactly what companies need to win in today's digital market. So welcome, gentlemen, and first of all, I'd like you, if you will, to introduce yourselves. And first, let's start with Juergen Muller, CEO of Viamedici. Juergen, tell us a bit about your journey.
Hi, David. Thanks. My name is Juergen Muller. I'm CEO of Viamedici, and I've 25 years background in consulting and IT industry. So I initially started in management consulting. This was actually very interesting because you are dealing with a lot of challenges companies are facing on a quite strategic level and see how to improve things. And of course, improving processes today or implementing new business strategies or anything like that easily relates to IT and information technology. So very often, IT solutions are part of the whole thing and kind of the foundation for process improvements. Though this is how I became more and more involved into the IT part, and I found this simply very interesting and very challenging to think about what is possible on the technology side, what is available, and how you can use it in order to create new business models or significantly improve processes and simply get a company some steps further. So this is something which I was really very much enthusiastic about. And so this got me into the software business. And then there was, of course, the chance to co-found the company which I'm running today, so Viamedici, because we did see a niche in the market, and this niche was simply exactly this sector. So we are managing products and product portfolios and also data and other domains and help companies here. And for several reasons we might discuss later on, there was a significant gap and a good chance for us to go in. And of course, we did also benefit from the relations we already had in terms of some early customers kind of directly jumped on the train and started it together with us. So this was, of course, a big help.
Thanks, Juergen. And joining us also is Bissmeyer. Al, correct me if I'm getting your pronunciation wrong. I know we practice, but I don't always get it right. So Al, tell us about how you've arrived here too.
Sure. Thank you, David. So I've been in the IT business for about 30 years. I was always interested in software. And when I came out of university, my first real effort in the software arena was to work with manufacturing companies. And I ended up having an opportunity to actually install SAP at Colgate-Palmolive. It was the first SAP install in North America. And as I was doing that and kind of working through all the complexity of bringing data from the plant floor up into the business systems and the financial systems, I realized that there are a lot of opportunities in technology for advancements within manufacturing specifically. And so over the course of my career, one of the things that actually happened as a result of that initially was I had a few senior executives who approached me and said, your vision in terms of the use of technology is great, but one of the things that you do extremely well is be able to communicate how technology can be applied to people. And so they said you need to kind of move out of doing the implementations and go into kind of the sales and marketing and product development side of the arena. And so that's kind of changed my trajectory in terms of how I got involved. I knew enough to be dangerous and knew enough to be able to call BS when someone told me that something could do something that it couldn't do. But I actually was able to solution with companies and figure out how they can utilize technologies for competitive advantage. And then about 10 years ago, I was working with Microsoft, and they wanted me to focus in on some healthcare issues and in the healthcare industry. And a lot of the MDM requirements were within that. And so I started working with a number of the partners that were utilizing and doing things in MDM for healthcare, and that's how I got involved. And we ended up implementing several of those solutions, and then I just took off. It's an area that's very interesting. It's an area that creates total change for organizations if they do it effectively. And I found Viamedici, who does it probably better than anybody that I've seen. So that's how I ended up getting here with Viamedici. So that's a quick background.
Fantastic, thank you. So, Juergen, you mentioned in your introduction a gap in the market. You saw a challenge, I guess, that maybe others didn't. So tell us a bit about that and how you responded to it.
Yeah. So it was actually coming through the consulting work I was doing that were involved in some projects, and some I recognized that there are some topics we run into quite frequently in different industries where we simply can't find any good solution around. So it was absolutely worthwhile think about coming up something on our own, and this was really so of course quite some time ago. So Viamedici is not a startup in terms of we just started the company 2 or 3 years ago. So we are in the market now for almost 20 years, but the market in the meantime has changed significantly. So that time it was mainly about internet, online business, everything was coming up, and companies did face a challenge that they now had to. So today this is low complexity. Today we have much higher complexity, but that time it was absolutely new. Large corporations had to face a challenge that they had to care for 2 channels: the traditional classical channels like print material, price lists, promotion, whatever you need in order to market your products, and now same time also the new online channels. This means e-commerce platforms, website, and all that stuff. And when you have a large product portfolio, what most international companies at a certain size do have, and then think about you have a large portfolio with maybe 100,000 products. For every product, you need description, you need marketing material, you need packaging, you need communication, and all that stuff. And now you need all this also online. This means do this manually is a hell lot of work. And when you then are active in maybe 50, 60, 70 markets, doing this in all those languages, and maybe adjusting communication a bit market specific and target group specific, then this is almost impossible. So it was absolutely clear somehow you need to cover it. And of course, in the beginning, consulting companies started develop specific solutions, so custom solutions for those scenarios, but that's very expensive, takes a long time, has high implementation risk. And next thing, this is something which is changing very fast. So product portfolios are always changing. Companies do acquisitions, portfolio is changing. Say sell away part of the business, portfolio is changing. They get new requirements regarding what they need to communicate. Somehow they have to incorporate this. So you need a flexible system. If you have something which is custom made, then this means it's more or less hard coded. So whenever you need to adjust something or extend something, you have to program again. So very difficult to handle on the long run. And so here it was absolutely clear there is a need in the market where that allows you to manage your, in the beginning, the products and everything around this, um, in a way that you can use it for the different channels simultaneously, and also have a high flexibility in how to use it. So really to close that gap, and this was the initial idea. And so then we started some cooperation with some other IT vendors like SAP and others who had some backend systems which provided some kind of logistical administrative data on which we could then build, and also corporations to some e-commerce and front end, so downstream application companies, and positioned us in this gap. Manage the products, manage the portfolios, all the content around, all the languages, and cover initially these two channels, offline and online.
Al, can you just tell us a little about the key industries that Viamedici is working in?
Yes, we're doing a lot in the construction industry. We're doing a lot in electronics. We actually started out in the electronics and components industry. We did durable medical equipment is actually an industry that's growing very rapidly for us. We work within the furniture and CPG industries. And obviously we already mentioned manufacturing, but really those are some industries that we're focusing in on. And I've actually talked to several folks. We haven't done a ton in this area. We have done CPG, but it looks like pharma may be an area that would be very applicable to our solution set. So those are some of the focus industries that we're focused on. Juergen, did I miss anything?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. So that's pretty much where we're in at the moment. Recently, we're also doing more in retail, distribution, wholesale industry. Also coming from one of the acquisitions we were doing, which gave us more insight into those sectors. So we now also know the processes. So again, know where we can create the business value, and we had to recognize that what is required we can cover easily with what we have. So we are now also stronger in those areas. But yes, I think you got all the different sectors.
Perfect, thanks.
Just for my information, I have a bit of a background in media, and we used to see problems around, let's say you wanted to run an advertising campaign for a new mobile phone across Europe. Would have maybe different codes for how you might refer to it. There might actually be slightly different models across different regions, and it was always there were platforms available that could act as a hub, if you like, a digital hub at least, for all of the different content that you might have related to that. Are you guys at all interacting with that world? It sounds as if this is much more about the hard product, and the IT supporting the systems that will deliver a product from A to B, but you also refer to content. So I'm interested in how those worlds collide, and who you are actually competing with.
Yeah, so when we started, actually, this was pretty new. So together with us, of course, some others came with similar ideas and started similar business, but the whole topic was pretty new at that time. So no real established competition in the market. And because it was also about covering all those processes where content is created, to make sure that it is created from the beginning in a media neutral way, so you can use it for different channels, and also a kind of relatively high granularity, or as some call it, atomic content, so small pieces that you can then use in different ways depending on what you want to do. So you need to establish all those processes, was also workflow and everything, of course, also part of the whole thing. And this was really very new at that time. Yeah, it was exactly not covered by the large enterprise software vendors.
got you. In some ways, there's something of there was a great book by one of the writers of the Clue Train Manifesto, which was Everything is Miscellaneous. And it was all about how you tagged and you break small pieces down to reconfigure them. And in fact, that thinking, I think, is becoming very hot again as we think about the impact of Web3 and how we will have to create data flows between entities across ecosystems beyond our own organizations. So the idea of small pieces that you can reconfigure in order to serve the best fit for the end user need. It is hot once again. I mean, in some ways, I think we referenced it, I think, in the Hot Vendor report we wrote about you. You're a business whose idea has come. It's like the market has finally caught up with you. And I know, Al, you're pretty clear that the technology and even I guess the mindset that Viamedici is presenting to the market is in advance of anything you're seeing in the North American market. Perhaps you could fill us in on why that is or what the differences are.
I think there's a number of things. I mean, one of the things that's interesting is that Viamedici, when they designed the product for the German market, originally that's kind of where we started out. It was very complex, lots of volume, lots of needs for different components. I've had several, I've obviously looked at the system and I've talked to several experts in North America who've looked at the system. And one of the major drivers is we're a data-driven architecture. So as we make changes to data, the model changes automatically. So that concept is not followed by many of the folks in the industry in terms of PIM or MDM. And so being able to go in and make modifications and dynamically change a model is key. The other thing that we do is we do references. So you can actually, and this goes back to what you were just talking about, where if you have components that are defined, you can reference those components. You don't need to replicate them. So you can reference them within the tree, and you can actually have one thing that you're maintaining that's used by multiple other components within a hierarchy. So that's a huge advantage for organizations. And what I've seen, if I really break it down, is that a lot of the things that are required in the US market right now are things that Viamedici has already been there, done that with customers. And I'll give you a few examples. So if you look at the US market, especially because of COVID, if you think about COVID, I think we had about $219 billion added in terms of online sales between 2020 and 2021, which was a 14.2% growth rate. And what's happening is the mid-sized companies, 500 million to 1 million, they have to go digital. They absolutely must. If they don't, they're out of business. And the larger companies that are out there, they've actually had to get their products to market quicker than they anticipated. So they may have planned to do things in 2027 or 2030, but they're actually had to pull it forward multiple years to get it out there. And so what's happened is you have multiple channels, you have marketplaces, which weren't even a real consideration before. You're kind of looking at some of the bigger companies are making their own marketplaces, or some industries are making marketplaces. So you have a much more complexity. And so the major things that Viamedici does is they manage scale. They can deal with billions of records as opposed to a few records, or hundreds of or millions of records. We're talking billions of records. They can render that information available immediately. So there's no latency in terms of accessing the data. And this is a huge thing for companies, because as consumers that are buying via the web are expecting their experience to be consistent with what they would have in terms of a retail experience. 93% expect the same or better capability from a usability perspective, which means you have to have the right information, the right pricing, the right description, the right image, all that other stuff. And with all this complexity, the companies need a product that can scale, that's real time. We do configuration, which none of the other PIM or MDM products do. We have that as part of our solution set. So you can actually go in and configure a product, but not only can you configure it, but you can do it immediately. So if you've ever been online and you go to, make some selections on a tennis shoe as an example, 3 different things, and the thing's spinning and it's taking a while, and you're just like, I'm done, I'm off. I'm not gonna waste my time. We're dealing with companies that have very complex products where they may have 60,000 variants here and 60,000 variants there, where we're bringing them together, and then you're able to make a decision and see your configuration immediately, which is why Yokogawa went with us. Yokogawa, 5,000 of their salespeople are using our product, and it's real time. They're doing flow meters, which is highly complex. And so they go in, they're able to actually change their selections. You see it immediately. There's no latency, and they make a selection. And in the US market, when I've shown this to folks that are working with us, they're blown away. It's like, I've never seen this. This is unbelievable. So those are some of the big things. The other thing that I think is key is a lot of companies have been talking multi-domain for a while, and Gartner really pushed this concept. They about probably 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 7. I'm getting older, so I don't know how long ago. But they basically combined and they said, okay, we want to have product and customer together. So we want to have multi-domain solutions. And what a lot of the companies did, the IBMs and the SAPs and the Informaticas, or a lot of the bigger folks, is they just bought different point solutions and brought them together and said, okay, here's a multi-domain solution. And what's different with ours is you actually have a true multi-domain solution. It all fits within the hierarchy. So you can get a 360 view of everything that's in a product. The customer that's interacting with it, the supplier that's interacting with it, the market that's utilizing it, the components or parts that go into it, all of that is available as part of the solution. So those are some of the big things that jump out at me that are, and also I guess the last, which I take as a given, is, typically most of our customers manage 30 to 40 languages. They localize, language is no issue. Workflows and revisioning is no issue. And in the States, a lot of people talk a big game, but with the exception of some of the bigger companies like Procter & Gamble, they may only have 1 or 2 languages. They don't really have an enterprise PIM. They'll address it locally, and then they'll go get a different solution for a different market because they don't have one solution that they're kind of managing as their enterprise solution. So, and that's where the big issue is. I think Juergen may have alluded to this. There's a number of companies that, they went out and they wrote custom code, or they, created custom PIM/MDM solutions. And then with the pandemic, they went out and they put up e-commerce solutions and thought, oh, the storefront's going to address our issue. And then they're like, wait a second, we need to manage all the stuff behind the storefront. And, what do we do to do that? And what you need is a system that's robust. So that was a mouthful, but hopefully
makes good sense. I'm interested in how that. So there's 2 things there maybe to explore. One is, and this is maybe a question for Juergen, do you think that being European based, built in Europe, makes a difference when you think globally versus companies that might be in Silicon Valley and see the entirety of their universe as North America, to give you that perspective on the challenges that multiple languages would lead to, for example? Has that been helpful? And the other part, I noticed you've got an exceptional customer retention rate. So I'm wondering how much placing the customer at the heart of your business has been part of its success story.
Yeah, good point. So yes, I really believe that in the beginning it was a challenge, but in retrospect, quite an advantage to start this business here in Europe. because markets are relatively small. So and then the next market, the next country immediately comes with different culture, with different ways you have to communicate and position things, and of course, very likely a different language. And even small companies are very likely selling their goods in quite some different markets, so have to address those issues, and they're pretty aware of it in order to grow their business. Whereas in US, you have a very large market and also some other international markets that you can at least address in English language easily. So you can grow quite some level until you really need to care about all those problems. But for us, it was a requirement from the first moment, and you couldn't get around it. So this, of course, was an extra challenge in order to design the product, in order to develop it. And we had to deal with these topics even with our first customers. So from the beginning, it was simply a must, simply a given, simply there. So this means, of course, that this is pretty much part of the DNA of our solution today. And this is definitively a big advantage compared to some other systems created in other areas where it was not that important, because now it is really key everywhere. Because today, as we have mainly digital business, a digital market, and digital markets are always global. So this is also something which has changed today regarding the access to other markets, as you can access it digitally, is relatively easy. And so it is key now worldwide for everybody to cover those issues. So here it was definitively a big advantage of us to do it. And of course, also in terms of knowledge and in finding the right people, because also the people you hire, they are aware of the problems. They fully understand it immediately because they live in this situation. So this, of course, also makes it easier. So here, yes, was a big advantage. That's clear. And what was the second part of your question again? Sorry.
So it was I noticed that you've got exceptional retention figures. I think it was 99.7%, I saw.
Yeah, something like this. Yeah.
99.3, yes.
99.3. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
Right.
But how do you get to that? That's great by anyone's standards.
Yeah.
Well, what is it that you think that has made you stand out for customers, made them keep coming back, but also in the same way as you mentioned the DNA of the business, has there been a kind of customer centricity from the word go that you've taken into the business that's delivering this kind of result?
Yes, absolutely. So it was clear from us from the beginning that our business is really based on having a long-term relationship to our customers and really working closely with them to explore where can we create business value for them, and then also really do it and deliver on that. So we have a very close relationship to our customers. When we started to design our solution, it was designed together with some early customers who was then immediately using it, gave us feedback, we did improve. So it was really designed from practice for practice, and it is today. So our customers are involved in roadmap planning, feature planning, all that stuff. We do workshops with them, get their input. We have a closer look on different verticals, want to understand the processes, where can we create values, and then we do it. So here we really invest a lot into it. And we also make sure that our customers are always with the infrastructure, always absolutely up to date. So we also invest a lot into innovation and product development in total, so that they really don't need to worry about anything here. So once they have the platform established internally, they are always absolutely on top of what is around and can address all the challenges their business is bringing along. So this, of course, did also help a lot here. And Yeah, we have also a lot of co-activities with our customers. Even going into new markets or things like that, we really try to join forces a little bit and do it together with them and explore also their network. Where can we help there? So this really is so this customer value focus, business value focus, and this close interaction which we have everywhere. This helped a lot here. Yeah. So our idea is really that at best, customers should really be absolutely happy with what we provide, and only leave if they are acquired from somebody or anything like that, but for no other reason. So that's really our goal.
So does that, because you talk a lot about co-creation there, working together with your customers to
Yes.
shape the product. Does
Yeah.
that extend to shared value deals where you're taking a cut of what they might see in terms of improvements? Any kind of creative deal making of that kind?
So you mean that we are kind of taking a percentage or whatever of what we
Yeah,
create?
it's what they call gain share in the
Yeah.
consulting world, isn't it?
Yeah, no, actually not. So we did not do any kind of those deals so far, but we definitively really go into the exploring the business case, understanding the business case, and then really also address the topic of what value do you want to get out of this? Where do you want to achieve it? What are the numbers? What are the goals? And then really together with our customers or also with the implementation partners. So in the meantime, of course, most of the projects are done by partners. But here again, we have some methodology to ensure that the quality is same level than when we are doing it. And we also follow those projects very closely to make sure that really those goals are met. And we also come in with some benchmarks like, look, you should achieve this level if you really do it good, and then we really try to get there together with our customers. Yeah.
So it sounds like much more of a consultative sell than turning up with a product and saying this is the solution to whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's a big software. So this is not a small software. It's a software which handles millions of SKUs with lots of characteristics, maybe in 40, 50, 60 languages. So it's nothing small. And uh, if you really want to have a long-term relationship, then you have to make sure that it absolutely pays out for the customer and really creates that value. So just providing the solution is simply not enough. And so it is, I would say, really, it is key that everything is really focused on what are the business problems that need to be addressed, how are they addressed, what tools to provide to do so, and then really how to measure this and really see that overall business-wise it is successful, and then the rest is no problem.
fantastic. I think there's some good guidance there that others might like to follow. Al, turning to you, let's think about the market. What do you see as the challenges emerging right now? What are people asking for? What do you expect them to ask for next? And what isn't being addressed?
Well, I think I think the challenge is that there's some gaps right now within organizations, as I kind of alluded to, in the mid-market, 500 million to $1 billion. There's a necessity to do PIM, but the whole market is really rocking. In the larger companies, there's a necessity to actually have an MDM and PIM solution that allows them to manage all their data on an enterprise level. So an enterprise-based solution that can manage complexity and volume, and actually I see configuration as being a mega trend. A lot of the, and we didn't get into this a lot, but one of the things that we're able to do is we have some companies that, for example, in the electronics industry, that can produce something in a lot size of one. So, if you think about it, you've created a new SKU or specifically to something that's been designed and they're able to order it. And I think more and more you're going to see that as a differentiation, because as companies are looking to differentiate the positioning of their solution and their products on the web or in a marketplace, certainly you have content, you have imagery, but then configuration is going to be a key driver. And speed is a big driver. I think one of the things on the MDM side of the equation that's kind of interesting is companies are trying to determine, where does master data and where does transaction begin, and kind of looking at transactional systems versus mastered systems and which data types are there. And more companies are trying to make their master data solutions transactional solutions. And we're capable of doing that specifically with the real-time capabilities that we have. But you have to, in order to make sure that you're addressing the requirements properly with the customer, you need to give them guidance as to, hey, this is outside the scope of what is traditional, master or PIM data versus what is transactional, because they could get themselves into trouble. So you definitely want to be able to provide guidance. And one of the things that we really focus on is under committing and over delivering. And the nice thing about Viamedici is that the product set can handle the requirements of the industry, the volume, the complexity, the channels, the 360 view. That's another thing that is definitely coming up. In the past, a lot of these companies, they would have, okay, we're just going to look at product, or we're just going to look at customer. We may look at what the customers are doing relative to the product. But now more and more companies are saying, okay, we want to see which products are being consumed by which customers, or which suppliers are supplying these components, and are there interchangeable components. We just got off a call recently where they were this morning where they were saying, hey, we got multiple parts that from different suppliers we want to be able to plug in. And so having that flexibility and being able to manage the complexity for a specific product that's going to be provided downstream is a key capability. And I also see, and this is an interesting thing too, there's a lot of pressure in the market for speed. Okay, you think about it. You think about Amazon. You go in a local market, you order your groceries, and they should be there in an hour. You go and you get a book, it should be there tomorrow. So it's as much about being able to configure and work with the product as it is the fulfillment. Can you actually, produce this thing and ship this thing so that the customer gets it, because that's part of the buying experience ultimately from a B2C perspective. From a B2B perspective, it's also the same thing. Companies are getting compressed time frames. They want to be able to know, hey, if I order this from you, can I get it? So you're going to see more of a fulfillment in concert with the product configuration and the product management, and making sure that, as one of the business rules, you go out and check and make sure that you have those components available for production. I see that as a major trend too.
Thanks. So we're coming towards the end of our time, I think. So it's probably a good point to start thinking about the future. So Juergen, can you tell us a bit about what the business has planned for the next 12 to 18 months? And if you're setting yourself some vision or goals for a little further out, I'm not asking you to go too far, because we all know how rapidly change is happening to us. You mentioned, Al, earlier, how quickly the future has arrived for a lot of companies. We are in complete agreement there. We think the whole demand to go to digital suddenly became something that had to happen overnight. And so that's made everyone think again about what the next few years have in store. And we've also got all of these macro factors hitting us. A land war in Europe. No one was expecting that. So these kind of things will all have an impact on how we do our work and where we think we're going to take our businesses. So where do you see, Juergen, in the next 12 to 18 months, what you actually got planned, and then maybe a little beyond that, but what would you think might be next?
Yeah. Yeah, you already addressed some major topics. So like war in Europe with quite some impact. Then we had COVID with also significant impact and everything. But really, COVID impact was also driving or boosting e-commerce and e-business. So when we started, it was actually a little bit early. So e-business was there, but not the real revenues. So the topic was there, but when you really looked on the revenues, it was not that big actually. What companies were really selling via e-commerce and e-business. Today, this is enormous. Today, this is really incredible, and especially COVID and lockdown was again a boost to e-business and e-commerce, and also in the B2B sector, self-service, also for B2B customers, also with complex goods, individualization, personalization, customer experience, all these things. Without a digital sales channel, in some sectors, you couldn't do any business at all. So this was a huge driving force, and also for us, it was really being back to a kind of really startup situation with growth rates, especially in our cloud business, of 100% plus X year over year. So really enormous. And it's still like this. And also despite, so we do have some activities in Asia. You know that some parts in Asia went for zero COVID strategy. So this had significant impact on that market. We do have activities in Eastern Europe. So the current situation also has quite some impact on that market, but still it does not impact our overall growth at the moment, because the growth of the whole sector is that big that it's just pushing forward. And we are currently mainly focusing on US to strengthen our position in the US market. So we do have some partners there, we have some activities there, but it was more indirect. And now with Al, we really started to push US, and I think this is a major market. This is actually the biggest market in this sector, and for us, the goal is clearly to leverage our strong position we have in Europe and some other areas, and mainly in the manufacturing industry, also to the North American market, and become a major player in the North American market also in very soon actually. So we have quite some ambitious goals here, and also establish us as a very reliable partner for the companies over there, and also long term. So same as we are doing here. So I think that's really key. This is what we want to achieve over the next couple of years. Keep our growth rate and become a major player in the topic in North America as well.
And a few years out, is there any change in plan? Anything you expect to come along and make you have to adapt?
So actually we are constantly, so our strategy is a bit diverse. So we of course doing a lot of innovation ourselves. We're always working on different technologies, and then of course we test whether it really it is not just nice technology, but we can also use it to create business value for our customers. If yes, then we implement it. So there, of course, and we are also prepared not only to do own developments, but also acquisitions. So we were doing 2 acquisitions the last 3 years. We're prepared to doing some more, and there are, of course, some areas we are looking at the moment where you can create immediate business value as a company based on having very structured data like you have in our systems. So here we're always interested. Currently, I think for the next couple of years, the whole topic of artificial intelligence and machine learning and the impact of that topic on MDM, PIM system, this is one of the major things, because you can really do quite a lot of here. So it's a lot of data. You have to manage the data, you have to maintain it, and so on and so on, making this easier, having a higher level of automation. This is, of course, a huge benefit, and you can achieve it. So very, very easy way to achieve it, for example, is translation based on machine learning. So everybody is using it, some tools on the web, and just translate things. You can also use it in such a system today, and have automated translation embedded. But there are lots of other options as well, where you can make artificial intelligence based services available to make working with such solutions easier and have more intelligence in the data. And this is something we are working on. We will launch quite something. So we have already started launching some services, and there will be some more services out throughout this year. And we also plan for something next year. And in order to do so, we have set up a competence team for artificial intelligence in one of our software labs, which is only focusing on this, working closely with some universities. So we always like to have close relationships to universities, especially to try out new things. Maybe from 5 things we try, maybe 1 is going into the product in the end. Yeah. So here we work with universities, and we are working on quite some stuff on the artificial intelligence side at the moment. That's very challenging and really exciting what's going on here.
That sounds really exciting for the future. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. It's been wonderful to hear all about what's going on with you as you plan that future. And congratulations once again on being named an HFS Hot Vendor. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you,
Yeah,
David.
thank you, David. Thank you for having us.